So, welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to be here at NEST GSV. I would like to thank our partners, TechWadi, in organizing the event. My name is Ovidiu Bujoran, and I manage the GIST initiative, the Global Innovation Through Science and Technology. We're very glad to have tonight with us 16 of the most promising tech entrepreneurs from the countries that the GIST initiative works with. We have a series of events that we have planned for them in Silicon Valley as well as in New York, Boston, and Washington, D.C. And it's always great to connect with diaspora organizations everywhere we go. And TechWadi, we know TechWadi very well. We've been working closely for a number of events in the past. And it has been a pleasure to work closely with. I want to thank also our partners, the State Department, that have been a very valuable partner in developing the initiative and supporting the initiative and working closely with us in implementing these great ideas. Tonight, we have a great panel. We have representatives of entrepreneurs and also investors. People like Dr. Harris. I will invite them to introduce each other very briefly. But we have people that are successful entrepreneurs in the US like Dr. Harris that travel around the world and get to meet a lot of entrepreneurs in different countries. We have Dr. Osama, who is a very successful investor and entrepreneur who has been at the center of founding TechWadi as a support organization for diaspora entrepreneurs. We have the Generation Next entrepreneurs here from Middle East, and they are very high energy. I know all three of them, so we do have very high expectations for them, and we do everything in our power to support them with everything. So we have Perihan from Egypt with Kabila Productions. She's also a former ISEC member. Disclaimer, I'm an ISEC member too, alumni. We have Hind, who is the winner of the MIT Enterprise Forum Business Plan Competition, Pan-Arab. And we have Ziad, who is the winner of the GistNight competition of last year. Both Hind and Ziad are from Lebanon. So I would start by asking you so the format for tonight, we'll have a very short conversation. I have a few questions for each one of you. And then what we will do is we will have the entrepreneur speaking for about 10 minutes. And then we'll have the reactions from the panel members as well as from the audience. And we'll do it one by one. We don't do all three pitches and then we get questions for each one. We'll do one by one so that the content stays fresh in the mind of the audience. So you're very welcome when after the pitch after we have the perspectives from the panelists to actually let us know a little bit more about what you think and if you have questions for them too. And also if you have suggestions or ways to help them as they are here. We saw a lot of ideas of how a lot of the resources are already in the room. So it's important as you see this type of opportunities, fresh ideas to think, is there a way in which I can help these most promising entrepreneurs? We're very encouraging of those efforts. So I will start with Dr. Osama. If you can talk a little bit more about your experience in building a diaspora support organization and what type of, in which ways are you looking to identify and support most promising entrepreneurs in the Middle East?
Well, I'm actually flattered and surprised that I'm the first one considering the brilliance of the people around me. It started really by reading about the Global Irish and how they're connected mind and heart to support Ireland. 80 million of them, 3 million in Ireland. And Ireland, unlike Greece, isn't really dependent on the European Union to get out of the economic challenges it faces. With President Obama's speech at Cairo University, it was very clear that it has fallen upon us, the Arab diaspora in the United States, to play our role and to do what we need to do to help promote entrepreneurship. So working with the CDRF, with the Global Entrepreneurship Program, with the State Department, we actually went on a road trip to find out what we need to do. And as I look now, 3 years later, at what Berytech has become in Lebanon, Sequence 2454 in Dubai, Oasis 500, which was founded, of course, by Osama Fayyad, who was here yesterday, and you will see him in Washington, D.C. Akram bin Mubarak is here from, actually from Morocco, not much talked about, but thank you. We have been able to get in touch. Effectively, we are 3,000 members, of which about 200 are very active. We see about 10,000 companies a year in different forums, MIT, Arab Business Bank competition, where I met these two absolutely wonderful ladies. We end up actually being actively involved with about 300, and this year we were able to finance 11. The financing decisions are always independent. They are angel financing, and the mentorship happens based on needs, affinity, and ability to deliver results versus anything like consulting, an advisory role, or what have you.
Okay, wonderful. Now back to Dr. Harris. In a private conversation, we discussed that entrepreneurship has no age. And I would like to ask you, basically, what made you start this venture at relatively later in your professional career, and what drives you to move forward with your venture? If you say a few words about your venture, too.
First, thanks very, very much for the opportunity of being here. And I also want to thank Gist and its tremendous leadership and also the staff coming together. I'm Generation Z, almost to the end. But I'm not ready to give up yet. I think it's very important that all of us, first of all, have to understand that we all have this entrepreneurial spirit within us. And that really is what impels me. I'm an individual who graduated from across the bay as a political scientist, did my graduate work at Berkeley, and then I went bi-coastal and finished up at Harvard. Again, in political science and public policy, went to Washington, spent 15 years in Washington at the Pentagon, taking care of our defense needs at the White House with the President's Intelligence Oversight Board, and then I suffered the loss of my president, and I can understand how some people were probably thinking that they may have to leave the White House, but again, last evening they were very, very pleased that they could stick around. I was one of these guys who had to leave. Let me tell you, it's very, very sad. But what you have to do is pick yourself up and go. I don't consider that a failure. I consider the failure of the president, but not of myself. So there are a lot of people in Washington who leave government and they're walking around Massachusetts Avenue, not knowing where they are. But the important thing is, as the message here in Silicon Valley, is that if you fail once, fail the second time, you're going to learn from each failure. Well, I certainly don't want to fail the first or second or third time. I want to be successful the first time. I left government. I came to California, which is my home. I live in Central California, the breadbasket of the United States. Also not very high tech, but at any rate, I am in a business, which is a healthcare business, that after nearly a decade and a half with university as a professor of strategic management and entrepreneurship, it's very easy to lecture on entrepreneurship from behind a lectern. I used to recall saying, cash flow is very important. Of course, I didn't have to make a payroll, so that was very easy. Now, in my business, 9 years, starting from one person, we're the largest home health agency in Central California. Healthcare, highly compensated field, making the payroll every 2 weeks, very important, but we haven't missed a payroll since day one, and I don't plan to. And what impels me to go on is this spirit. I happen to be a Mediterranean. My parents came from Greece, came to America. They brought that spirit with them from Greece. I was there just this last week. They still have the spirit. They're in pretty bad shape. But the important thing is going to the universities, both in Thessaloniki and Athens and also Kavala. I can tell you that the Greek spirit is still there with the young people. The older people, you may need to do something with them. But the fact of the matter is, I certainly have a great deal of hope, not only for Greece, but of any nation. And we've seen this tremendous change in the world. If you live long enough, you'll see a lot. So that is really what impels me. I'm really a low-tech guy. I've been through 3 generations of change. And I still like my iPad.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Harris. Great insights. I will move now to Perihan. Perihan won the Women Entrepreneur Award with the MIT Enterprise Forum and GIST joint competition. You have built a successful business. I would like to ask you what specific obstacles do women face when they build new ventures, and how did you overcome some of those obstacles?
Okay, so this is actually a question we're always asked. Hind is laughing on my side here because we're always considered to have overcome certain obstacles or seen a lot of challenges. Maybe my dad used to beat me up, telling me, you're not going to do anything. This didn't happen to me at all. I would say that I believe I'm one of the privileged young women in Egypt that had access to everything. I had parents that encouraged me to do everything. It was a bit challenging to tell them, now I actually work at Google and telling them that, I'm starting a business and maybe I would leave Google and go there. That could have been, pushing it, to the edge. But my parents are always encouraging, and I've gone to the best school in Egypt. I've been traveling, so I would say that challenges are not necessarily for me as a woman, but just like maybe challenges for a young Egyptian or a young Arab that were before the revolution. Again, I'm lucky to now I'm in a country where a revolution took place and a lot of changes happened. But before that, actually, being a media production company, the policy stated that we had to go through security checks that would last 6 months to, as long as a year. You couldn't start up something. There is no funds. There is no support. If you don't have any connections with the government, you're not going to find your way out. The talent is always there, but the access to opportunity was not there. So I think that's just an average. Any average like youth in the Arab region faces those kind of challenges, not specific to women. And I would have to say actually that I've traveled all over Egypt, and I've seen entrepreneurial women actually, that are farmers in Upper Egypt. In one governorate, actually, it was a statistic was reached that the woman there contributes just as much, if not more, to the family welfare as the man. And this is something that very few people know about. So I think the spirit is there, the talent is there, even if we don't have that entrepreneurial tag or sticker put on it, but it's still there. So I too have a lot of hope, especially after the revolution. Hopefully things will work.
Okay, great. Thank you. We're moving to Hind, and I take it as a compliment that my question was not very original.
It's not. This is actually all I'm asked. The first question I'm asked is, what is it like to be a woman?
Thank you. Let's move to some more original questions. Can you talk to us, Hind, a little bit about some of the challenges you are facing, and also some of the moments when you receive some unexpected support in building your ideas and ventures that in building of ventures, you have turning points, you doubt yourselves, you think, is this the right way? Everyone around you may tell you, maybe this is the wrong idea, you go a more safe job. So you have all these moments of doubts, and you come back. If you can share with us some of your experiences in building this venture and how you went through some of those moments.
Yeah, so actually what's funny is that when I was still in university, I took part in a competition where I just applied with an idea, and they accepted me, and I went to Qatar and I built my prototype, and I won $100,000, and I filed a patent, and I came back from Doha to Lebanon. I had all of this, but I still wasn't strong enough to start something, and I didn't have the strength in me to start a company. So I took a job for a year, and it took me a year, 12 months exactly, to find something in me that told me, okay, this is enough, this is not what you need to do. You have everything available to you. You just need to quit and start doing something. So doubt, yes, I had lots of doubts, and still every single morning I wake up with doubts. But the thing is, when I decided that I needed to do this, I found a very big support system around me in Lebanon. Not necessarily people that understood what I was doing, but people that wanted me to succeed in any possible way. So people telling me, come move into my office, people telling me, I'll introduce you to this person, I'll introduce you to this person. And actually, Dr. Usama was one of the big highlights when I first started, because I met Dr. Usama through through a professor I knew in Qatar very randomly, and then I met him and he introduced me to the ex-CEO of Arena and the founder of Tier, which is the largest distributor of swimming equipment in the US. So this, to me, just being able to talk to this person and to access him, and to this person giving me feedback about my product, was absolutely amazing. And it's these kind of interactions that give me hope and that make me think that, no, it is possible to do this, especially being based in Lebanon. And so meeting people like Dr. Usama, participating in competitions such as the MIT Business Plan competition, are things that we need in the region, not just me, but all entrepreneurs, just for us to gain faith and to have a bit more resources, because we don't have that many, in order to carry on with our startup and to move forward. And so whenever someone comes to me with an idea and they're like, what should I do? I'm like, don't take a job, just do it. Just start doing it, and people will come to you along the way and they will help you get there.
Great insights. Thank you. Another certification of the role of diaspora in actually providing access to specific potential partners, also potential investors. Moving to Ziad, would be great to learn a little bit more about how you decided to start your company and the product that you are working on right now.
Sure. Thank you very much again. Well, it's I think I'm one of the few lucky ones in the Middle East who had the chance to experiment with this wonderful, awesome world of entrepreneurship here in the United States. So basically, I got my master's here in the States, and during my master's, I got introduced to a very interesting program that is in the university. That is its goal is to basically create technology startups. And I worked with the team, and we ended up founding a technology company, the biomedical technology company. It was a wonderful experience. We learned a lot. We were able to create a technology for a niche market that was greatly needed. That startup, I mean, I left them and I went back to the Middle East to pursue my dream of working on this technology, the startup I'm working on now. But the startup we started earlier got acquired this year by a giant in that field for more than $17 million. So that was really, the sad thing is I didn't get any part of that, that pie because I left early. But I mean, I'm still excited to do this again. We are creating now a company called Cardio Diagnostics, where we commercialize a heart monitoring technology, wireless heart monitoring technology, and we monitor patients for critical and non-critical conditions, especially heart attacks. If you're going through a heart attack, we can know where the patient is, what he's experiencing, and send him help necessary to save his life. So it's immensely beautiful feeling to do this all over again, to start the ground and to experience the difficulties. But the only exception is that this time we're doing it in the Middle East. And it's a totally different world, totally different. More challenges, but with more challenges comes more innovation, more difficulty to find the solutions, and more reward when you find that kind of solutions. So we are very excited about that phase right now.
Great to hear that. Thank you, Ziad. One more question for Dr. Osama. It's like, when you look at the region of Middle East, what type of trends you see, and what type of new emerging interesting solutions or areas of technology development that you see growing as an investor? I would be interested to learn.
So they say about trends, if you would like to know them, just look outside the window. You look at the number of universities with incubation program and focus in education, on entrepreneurship education, and it's right across AUC, AUB, Birzeit University, you name it. I think that the number of entrepreneurs demonstrably has increased by a factor of 3, or at least statistically that's the case between 2009 and 2012. The amount of money, if you look at Jordan alone, Jordan is a small country, and yet Oasis 500 alone has had now 700 entrepreneurs go through the boot camps. 54 of them have been incubated and financed, and 20 of them have received follow-on financing. Now, in 2011, that did not exist. So the level of engagement by mentors and by angel investors, the seriousness of some of the venture capital funds, whether they are associated with an incubator or independent, like IV Holding, for example, the conviction that Maktub is no longer the limit, but is a milestone on the road, that potentially the next exit will be 17 million or 500 million, and there will be quite a few of them. And the governments, whether it is in Qatar or in Dubai, even in Saudi Arabia, are actually trying to reach out to say, let's focus on the public sector. Not everyone needs to go to religious education and work for the government, and then we'll take care of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. I think we'd love to move into the pitching side. I think is the most exciting part as well. So any volunteers that want to go first? That was a test in itself. Good. Let's get going. Yeah. How you want? If you want. Yeah, if we want, we can go there to see. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want this to be a formal presentation with figures and numbers. The slides are just for the show. So my story is that I'm a swimmer. I've been swimming ever since I was 5 years old. I've always been part of swimming teams. And as I grew, I changed schools, I changed clubs, I always changed swimming teams, and I got to AUB, and swimming became a super big part of my life. So I was swimming every single day for 2 hours. Swimming became more important than my studies. I was an engineering student back then, and I was fascinated how the entire world was integrating technology in their daily activities, except for swimming. And so in swimming, we need to monitor all kinds of stats. So we need to count our number of laps, we need to count our number of strokes, because that's very important, and we also need to monitor our heart rate. And so I was shocked that there was absolutely no way for us to monitor our heart rate. What we did was actually count our pulse manually for 60 seconds after each race. So imagine that you're swimming 50 meters, which takes you 36 seconds, and then for 60 seconds you need to count your heart rate to evaluate 36 seconds. So as an engineering student, this didn't make sense to me. And I was watching my fellow runners wearing all of these cool gadgets, like these watches that track their location and distance and speed and heart rate. And this didn't make sense. And if you look just a bit at the market, so the sports industry is a $1 billion sports industry, and swimming is just a small chunk, but it's a chunk that's been entirely left out of the technology sector. And we swimmers feel that we need biometric instruments that make the swimming tracking experience very seamless. And so I've decided to create Butterfly, which is my seamless monitor. And so this is how it looks like. It's a small module that you put on the straps of the goggles. So just to show you, I'm going to put the mic down. So there's a groove in the middle. Oh, I don't need a mic.
I can.
No, it's fine. Can you all hear me?
We are also recording.
Yeah?
We are recording.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No,
Sorry.
I can help you. Sure.
Yeah, okay. So there's a groove in the middle. I mean, you need to be creative, right? So there's a groove in the middle of the module where the strap sits.
What did I do for you?
Okay. And you just put the straps inside the hook. Okay. And there's a sensor in the back that measures the heart rate from the temple. And this is actually one of the main innovations in the device, because it's the first time that you can measure a heart rate without a chest belt or without a finger clip or an ear clip. And for a swimmer, this is very important, because when we swim, we just wear a swimming suit, a swimming cap, and our goggles, and we jump into the water. Like even these small, tiny bracelets, we remove them. So no one wants to wear an extra watch or an extra chest belt. And so the heart rate is measured from the sensor in the back. Okay, so it's the green thing, if you guys in the back can see. And so there's this tube that lights up and that goes all over the lens and clips onto the nose bridge, and it reflects indirectly into the lens the color. And so the feedback is color coded for a very specific reason, that swimmers cannot focus on a number and start thinking while they're swimming, because they need to count their number of strokes and focus on the flip turns. So the color coding is very simple. It's green if you're on target, red if you should slow down, and yellow if you should go faster. So a very simple and very intuitive way for the swimmer to know in real time where he is according to his target and regulate his speed accordingly. That way, he can optimize his workout. And so there's also USB connector, so that when the training is done, you can upload your information to the website, and that way you can track your performance over time. And so for those of you who don't know, heart rate is very important in swimming, because it's the only biofeedback metric that tells you which aspect of the body you're working on. So for example, if you're swimming at between 50 and 70% of your maximum heart rate, you're actually working on burning fat. But if you're swimming between 70 and 85% of the maximum heart rate, you're working on improving the general fitness of your body. And if you're swimming above 85%, you're actually building up your muscles. So if for a particular race, the coach asks you to swim above 85% and you're actually swimming below 70%, for example, you're not reaching your target. So you're actually burning fat and you're not working on building up your muscles and making them stronger. And so this is why monitoring your stats and having real-time feedback is very important. And Butterfly is the first tool that gives swimmers a seamless experience for this tracking aspect. And so once I finally decided to start Butterfly, what we did is we went and talked to swimmers. So we really wanted to know which swimmers we were targeting. Was it any single swimmer, or was it just highly competitive swimmers? And so we found out that we were talking to people that were aged between 18 and 65, that were very frequent or professional swimmers, that understood the power of technology, and that were very knowledgeable about swimming and about health. And we benchmark, we wanted to see what was on the market. So what's on the market today? There's Aquapulse by Finis, which is a company located here, and they also have a module that can clip on the straps of the goggles. It has a voice feedback, and it reads your heart rate out loud. There's also modules that you clip on your glasses, but that are not waterproof, and that you need to add external sensors for them to give you a certain reading. There's a mask for skiing, but that doesn't give you biometric feedback. It gives you altitude and speed. And there's more traditional watches that everyone knows and everyone uses. And so where we're at today, we're at a late stage prototype. So actually this is not the newer prototype. We have a newer one that is being developed now in Beirut. That's why I couldn't bring it with me. And so we're actually right now bridging between prototyping and manufacturing. So we're finding our manufacturing partners, doing the design for manufacturing, and we expect. Okay, so we expect to have the prototype ready by the end of December, and the plan is to get it on the market by April 2013. I really hope I can make that deadline. And so we're working on finding the right partners, right distribution channels in order to launch our first couple of units. And the design is happening in Lebanon. The manufacturing here, I've put the China flag, but most probably it's going to be in Europe, and our first target market is the US. And so our team right now is based in Lebanon and in France. We have the electronics designer and the industrial designer that are based in France, and all of the marketing and management are based in Lebanon. And we're very lucky to have superstars on an advisors board, among them Steve Furness, who is the founder and the CEO of Tier.com that Usama gracefully introduced to me. And the plan is to integrate our electronic platform to other verticals. And so we can transition this device by tweaking the design just a bit. We can transition it to runners and to bikers, to skiers, to motorbikes. So allowing the same heads-up display technology to be integrated into all other type of eyewear so that it's available for other sports sectors. And so this is not interesting because it changes every single day. And so, yeah, I mean, I was just discussing now that it's very challenging and very nice to do this from Lebanon because it's very new. So I'm probably one of the first people that are working on circuitry, and it's very hard to do things because I need to ship components. That takes a week to get here. Whenever I change my design, I need to send it to the manufacturing. That takes 10 days, and 10 days back to Lebanon. So everything is much slower. But also you can feel that it's starting to build some kind of ecosystem in Beirut. So people are more and more interested about this technology, and they're willing to contribute and willing to help. So, and I guess this is also the point of being part of GIST. I mean, to go back home and then to spread this initiative among other people and help build and scale up this ecosystem. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Hind. So if we have a few remarks from our panelists before comments, suggestions, and then I'll pass the mic around for any questions on the pitch and the business.
What is the product development being done now?
It's done between Beirut and France. So design is being done in Beirut, then we send it to France for prototyping. We found it's easier than doing it here because of the time zone difference.
And for a young CEO to manage all these resources everywhere and manufacturing in China, business development in the US.
Thank
How
God
do you
for
do it?
Skype.
Good luck, wonderful.
Great. Dr. Harris, would you like to say? No, it's okay.
This is the example of talent in the world. This is really first rate. I'm also a swimmer, but I don't look like one. But at any rate,
I don't look either, so that's fine.
I think we do really a tremendous invention here. But let me give you a suggestion. Move as rapidly as possible, but also think twice before you take the next step. Now, whether you can do both of those at the same time, that's going to be a challenge. In terms of a market, getting your product manufactured, and the next is to sell it and focusing in the United States. It's not easy to introduce a new product unless you really have a marketing plan to do so. So I would say move as rapidly as possible in trying to get everything put together, but also think twice about it. And good luck to you. This is tremendous.
Great. So do we have any questions from the audience? Yeah? If you can introduce yourself and...
Sure. My name is Alan Chang. I'm from Capricorn Investment Group. It's a pleasure to be here. Great company. Curious, you mentioned you might be manufacturing in Europe, and then you have the China flag there. Have you looked at some of these recent services, like a company called PCH, that basically allows for sourcing of electronics, and then apparently, from what I've been told, they can lower the cost of electronics significantly. So in a way, hardware is almost the new software where you can start to outsource these.
That's true. I've heard this sentence a lot, and I don't agree with it. But still, I've met actually the CEO of PCH last week, and my company is still too early to be integrated into PCH because I'm not making revenues. So, I mean, and it's the same for people that approach me and tell me, why don't you license this technology to Speedo? It's the same concept. Like, the product needs to be out. People need to see it. Swimmers need to feel it, start using it. And then you can get the conversation going with people like PCH or Speedo or Arena. So my plan is actually to produce a small number of units, not a big number, so 500 up to 1,000, maybe a bit more. But then consider whether going into that direction or going all the way up to mass production.
Thank you. James?
Hi. Have you considered using Kickstarter to crowdfunding your project?
Yes, it's a bit tricky because my product can be considered as a medical device, and Kickstarter does not support medical devices. But I've been waiting for my product to be -3 months ready, because I don't want to have the problems that all of Kickstarter hardware projects are having, that they've been delaying shipping too much. So I don't want to be having, and this is what's happening with Pebble, for example, and all other kinds of hardware startups. So yes, you might see my product on Kickstarter in the coming 2 months.
Okay, we have a question here.
Mourad Benayed, Secure Access Technologies. I'm just wondering about your channel strategy. I know I've had some experiences with similar products, tried to push them through consumer distribution channels, and it's been a very big challenge. And I was wondering if you have some creative ways of how you're going to push this through some channel without losing a lot on margins and especially profit margin.
Yeah, so as I said, as a first step, I'm only manufacturing a small number. And for this small number, I'm not going to be targeting stores, but I'm going to be going to swimming teams, to events. I've already talked to people in many universities, and they're going to be my test panel. And there's going to be an online store and selling through different online channels. But if that picks up and it grows, then I've already also talked to people at Speedo, at TYR, at other different companies. So I'm not planning on creating my own new channels, but using existing channels in order to distribute the product.
Any more questions? Yeah, please.
What are your plans to validate your product? Have you tested it? Does it work 100% of the time? Does it slip? Are there any issues?
Yeah, so we've tested it on the technology side. So we have a couple of prototypes that have been distributed to actually 12 swimmers. And we're testing like how reliable is the heart rate, how solid is the product, and all of that. So we're doing already all of these testings. And we still have a bit of regulatory testings to do. Now, this is not a medical product, so it's not as bad as the full-blown FDA thing. It needs 2 to 3 months. But some testings are definitely being done because the product can't fail.
Okay, let's take the last question here, please. Thanks.
What is your mechanism? You mentioned that you have the feedback mechanism to say whether you're stroking too hard or whatever. What is the feedback mechanism for that?
It's reflection through your lens. So there's a series of LED lights that reflects through the lens of your goggles. So it's indirect light. It doesn't annoy you right in the face, but it's an ambient kind of light.
The last question here.
Seriously, the last one.
I'm happy to answer more.
You mentioned that the data can be uploaded through a USB key or something along these lines. Now, with this accumulated data, what else do you offer? Or is there another service that is part of your offering that does analytics or whatnot on these things?
So we're actually developing an analytics platform that is specific for swimming. So it's not the standard one that all of the products are using. So being able to see your heart rate versus time, but also your heart rate versus lap, heart rate versus the type of swim, these kind of information. But then there's also the coach side. So the coach being able to monitor your training, seeing how you're doing over time. So there's all kinds of this complex analytics that comes with the software.
That's all. Thank you.
So the story of the company that I'm working on now, the company is called Cardio Diagnostics, and basically it does what it says. It does diagnostics for heart patients for cardiac conditions. Started back when I was 17 years old. I applied for undergraduate school, and I was really excited about being a computer engineer. I applied for computer engineering. Around that time, when I got the admission and I was about to start the university, my father got a heart attack just here in the US, up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And that heart attack was terminal. So basically, I lost my father at that time. When I talked to the cardiologist later on, I was like, what's this heart attack? Couldn't we figure it out before? Why didn't you save him? Why didn't you do something about it? And they said, yes, if we could reach him early enough, we could have saved him, because the heart signal displays changes that could tell you this person could go into an attack, or it could lead to a critical condition that could lead to death eventually. So I started, that drove me so much during my studies as a computer engineer to focus all of my effort and energy into understanding the heart signal, the electrocardiogram, how it functions, what changes lead to heart attacks, how do these display, how does the cardiologist tell it when you go to the clinic and do this ECG and read this ECG, how could the cardiologist tell that you might get into a heart attack, or you have an artery that is closed and you need a catheterization or something like that. I'm sure most of you have heard of these terms. So basically, we figured out that there are certain changes on the heart signal that you can identify it, and I started working on that in my undergrad. By the time I graduated from my undergraduate studies, I had a primitive prototype that can capture the heart signal and send it wirelessly. So I was trying to mimic that situation, where if my father had that on his body, we could have sent that heart signal to somebody to tell what's going on. So I left that in college, and I worked a little bit in telecom, and I learned more about this. But I always had that in mind. Then I came back to the States. I started my graduate studies and focused all of that on computational modeling. So we create software that can analyze physiological signals. I worked in several clinical settings in Ohio, basically. We worked a little bit with Cleveland Clinic, and we worked with the Ohio State Medical Center. And we created computational models that can analyze physiological signals, like the brain signal or the heart signal. I can tell if there's a problem going on with those. And then I told you about the quick story with the startup, the technology startup we had. I mean, I was not passionate enough about that startup, though it ended up with $17 million acquisition deal. But I mean, it's fine. I left and I went back to the Middle East to pursue that kind of passion. Why the Middle East? Throughout my experience, I know that it's very difficult to test and validate in the US. It's very expensive. The regulations are very harsh. And I saw a niche and an opportunity in the Middle East. There was a kicking wave, a rising wave for that pushes technology startups in the Middle East. And I saw a lot of opportunity there and a lot of opportunity to test and validate and then expand globally. So that's our strategy, basically. What we did, we took these software that can analyze the heart signal and put them into a hardware that could be wearable. So if we can play the video to show you a little bit quickly how this works. Yes, you're getting closer to play. All right. So we call the product LifeSense. We basically have a wearable textile with the electrocardiogram sensor, heart sensor, that analyzes the electrocardiogram around the clock with our proprietary algorithm that we developed. And we look for the heart signal beat by beat. We analyze them, and we find certain figures that could tell us the person could go into a problem or a condition. When we find that, the system automatically and wirelessly transmits the signal through the carrier to a dedicated monitoring center. In the dedicated monitoring center, we have professional medical experts who look 24/7 at the screens and find the problem and report the condition. And if it is a critical condition, such as a heart attack, we can locate the patient via the GPS and send them the help that is necessary to save the patient's life. So basically, we have designed two products. One of them for a cardiac condition called arrhythmias, irregular heartbeats. So it's a belt basically that reads the heart around the clock and can detect these arrhythmias and diagnose it and help the cardiologist diagnose it properly and give the treatment and alter the treatment if necessary if the patient is not responding to treatment properly. The other product is a wearable textile with the industry's first 12-lead ECG, portable ECG with wireless capabilities. So that looks at more of the ischemia conditions or the conditions that could lead to a heart attack. It analyzes it simultaneous 12 leads and can tell if this person could get into a condition that is lethal. And if that's the case, we send it to the monitoring center. The human, the trained medical professionals will look at the data and decide which kind of reaction to respond to that event accordingly. So we're looking at a huge market. It's a no-brainer how big the problem is. And I want to conclude with a very important statistic. Today, even here in the US, 1 out of 10 patients who get a heart attack get hospitalized, then get discharged. So 1 out of 10 of those who get discharged get another heart attack within the next 30 days. And in the US, in Europe, in Japan, in the developed and underdeveloped countries, those patients are discharged without no way to monitor them whatsoever. So if we have this in the market, we can definitely save the lives of those who are not being monitored for that purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Harris, if you'd like to say a few words.
I had a similar situation with my mom. Fortunately, we were near the hospital and she was saved. She had other problems later, but your product, if it was available on the market, certainly would have given an indication to us. Again, I'm not a high-tech guy, but I know what your product can do. And since I'm in the healthcare business, we can also use products like that to take care of our patients once they leave the hospital. And we can monitor them at home. I think it's a very cost-effective way I wish you success on what you're doing, and I think you've done a great job. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Osama?
Thank you very much. It's an awesome presentation. Is this a consumer product?
No, this is a medical device, actually.
So how would you sell it?
The distribution channel is basically through the cardiologist. The cardiologist is our distributor. We already have agreements with certain hospitals to start the testing, and they were ready to adopt this into their stock of medical equipment, including hospitals in Lebanon and in Qatar as well. So we've signed letters of intent to use this. But basically, it's a well-established model in the market. Today, there are companies such as, for those of you who know who are in the field, CardioNet, Corventis. These are American companies that make a comparable product, but only for arrhythmias, so only for irregular heartbeats. They do not do the ischemia side that we focus on as well. So those go directly through the cardiologist, and when the patient comes to the cardiologist with a problem, the cardiologist is the one who suggests usually the medication or the medical device to use. So that would be the case. He would suggest the medical device to use, and the patient will be. And we operate a subscription-based model where we charge the patient for the duration of time that has been monitored.
Thank you. Would love to hear 5 years from today how many lives have been saved. Huh?
We hope
Sounds
to hear.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hope to have a big number for you, hopefully.
Questions, please. You can introduce yourself.
Basim Faik. The one comment I have, is how does the product look on the body, if you will? Because maybe one concern would be, okay, the utility of the technology is there, but from a feeling standpoint, do people like to show their like they have a problem? Because it's a signal to others. So.
Yes, fantastic. So when we designed this product, we had the patient in mind, and we had a very consumer-centric approach to the design. We have two products particularly. One for the arrhythmias, which looks like a belt with that looks at the ECG from one angle, and we can and does the analysis and the wireless transmission. And the other one is more like a vest. So we have innovation in the design. We're filing for design patents as well. We have 12 leads integrated into an underwear kind of shirt, where where you have no wires whatsoever, so that and it doesn't show under your clothing. And the innovation in hiding, concealing the wire is very important, because if you look at the market right now, we have something called the Holter monitor or other kind of monitors, where the patients actually have to wear it. That's the only way to monitor patients for a couple of days. It does monitoring for a couple of days, and it has a lot of wiring and something you put in your pocket, and it records the ECG around the clock for like 1 day or two, and then you bring it back to the doctor, and he analyzes that. So what we did is we took the wires out, we put algorithms that can do auto analysis, and when there is a problem, we do the immediate wireless transmission and detection of location.
I have two questions.
Sure.
The first is, what is the status of the domestic and international patents?
Fantastic. So we didn't file any domestic patents in Lebanon because we believe it's a waste of money. But for the international, we have U.S. patents. We have one patent pending and another provisional that would be converted into a non-provisional patent within the next couple of months. So basically, we filed them this year, so it's going to take time until they get approved. But we have a patent attorney that assured us we have all the requirement to get a secured patent in this domain.
Second question, how much money are you looking for?
We are looking for, we raised $550,000 already in a Series A, and we're looking for an extra $280,000 to close Series A round of funding. So that's not probably serious money for those of you in the Valley. Fantastic, sure. Any other questions?
More questions? No? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So I wasn't really aware that we're expected to give a 10-minute pitch. And the last time this happened, I went on stage and I started talking about shoes. So I'll try not to do this this time. We're Qabila Media Productions. It's self-explanatory. We are a media productions company, which is essentially the business of storytelling. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you the story of how the company started and where exactly we're going. So towards the end of 2010, a group of my friends and I were sitting and we're talking about how bad the kind of content that we saw on Egyptian television, actually in all of Arab television. Not only that, most of the time, I'm sure all the Arabs here would actually say, oh yeah, I'm seeing actually nodding. So it either, was not telling the truth, it was all lies, far from it. But most importantly, it had nothing to do, it was completely irrelevant to what us youth, who make up about 50% of the population, the Arab population, care about or worry about or actually want to see. So we're like, we looked at each other and we thought that we can actually do this. We're talented. A lot of us actually were script writers, actors, filmmakers. And we're like, why don't we do this? So we decided, okay, let's do this. Let's start like a film club kind of thing. What do we need? We need a camera. Okay, so we sat, we had another meeting, taking money out of our pockets. Somebody borrowed from daddy, somebody borrowed from, mommy. And we collected 15,000 pounds, which is like not even $2,000, I think, or maybe a little bit over. And then we bought our first camera, and with that we bought a cake, actually, to celebrate the camera. And we decided to actually start shooting. The videos were really, really bad. We actually started shooting videos. We wanted to do like videos about Egyptian and Arab proverbs, just to sort of tell the stories about the heritage of Arabs. But they were really, really bad. We never showed them, not until today. Like nobody saw them. But then a couple of months later, the revolution happened, and honestly, it couldn't be a better inspiration. Not only that it inspired our business model and the way we do things, but it also inspired our name. So for the non-Arabic speaker, Qabila actually means tribe in Arabic. And a lot of people were like, oh, what do you call yourselves Qabila? Tribalism is a really, really bad problem in the Middle East and in a lot of countries. But actually, we wanted to think of the positive side of it, the spirit of collectivism that you see in tribes, how they, share resources, share emotions, collectively make decision-making, but essentially they share a dream regardless of their differences. And this is exactly what we wanted to do. And, seeing millions of people in Tahrir Square, extremely different, very, very diverse. Nothing is common between two people sitting next to each other, but they still saw that big picture, that very beautiful picture that they can actually contribute to, and everybody assumed a certain role to contribute to that. This is exactly the kind of picture that we want, and we chose media as the fourth power to actually, create that environment. But this also actually reflected on our business model. So we crowdsource our content. How do we do that? We use the very basic technology that's available, a very small company called Facebook. They have a lot of applications that are already made there, and we chose one of them to actually allow all the talents out there. A lot of them were part of Tahrir Square, but there are millions of talents there, and basically they can contribute their content. It could be anything from a script to a creative treatment, to animation, to video editing, anything that falls in the process of media production. And we assemble the team from the crowd, and then we start producing that video. We give them access to our studios, video editing, and even we take care of the distribution as well, and then we do a revenue share, like we take a split of the revenues. We also have our own in-house production unit where we produce for our clients. The reason we actually adopted crowdsourcing, not only because of the inspiration, but also because it guarantees something very, very essential for the client that we work with, which is relevance. So how do you do that? When you're addressing a certain audience, who would be better to actually create that content than a member from that very same audience? So, when one of their productions, actually, we worked on a video, a series. It's called Citizens Guide to Understanding Politics. And a lot, right after the revolution, there were a lot of political scientists, sitting on talk shows, in their suits, looking very, fancy and very nice, talking about, a lot of political terms that, very, very complicated for an hour and a half, and people walk away or, turn off the TV, and what is left again? What is right? What is parliamentary government? Nobody would know. So we decided, okay, we're going to look for sponsorship to actually finance our first series, animation series, which is called A Citizen's Guide to Understanding Politics. And it's a very, very satirical animation, very fun animation video. And there's 7 episodes explaining all those political terms that people were bombarded with. And with that, actually, we created a proof of concept. And with that proof of concept, we changed the game of the media industry. What happened exactly is that because the timing was perfect, it was exactly the very relevant audience, the content that the audience was looking for. It went viral very, very quickly. We got millions of views on our content. And instead of us, trying like a typical media production company, create that prototype and go to the, the media buyers, mainstream media trying to, push our content, please buy it, please, license, buy licensing for broadcasting our content. They actually came to us. So, I'm sitting in an office, very, very tiny one, and then I have Al Jazeera calling me up. Can we actually please broadcast your content? And I'm the one with the upper hand. So, this is how the game actually changed, because we created that proof of concept, and we proved to them that content that has value, that educates the people, raises their awareness, or even moves them, moves their emotions about certain issues in the region, and young talents, not tycoons, not the biggest, not Warner Brothers kind of production, but just, people that have the talent there. If you give them access, they can actually create the content that will still guarantee you the $1 million bucks that, on revenue spent on TV. So now, actually, we have a very, very strong portfolio of clients, primarily non-governmental organizations, including the United Nations, UNDP, UN Women, UNESCO, a lot of governments. And we've produced videos that reach basically we're targeted for 4 different markets in the Middle East, but our content is viewed across the region, pan-Arab. We're looking also into expanding into other markets. We're starting off with Africa, because we believe that, everywhere there's a huge opportunity for content, for local content, because we're just big content consumers. And when you provide people actually with the local content they're looking for in a very, very same flavor that they actually interact in, the way they speak, then we can guarantee that that their content will be viewed, and your client would love actually to spend money on that, because it's just relevant and effective and even cheaper as well. So currently we have 3 revenue streams. 2 of them are very established. 1 of them we're expanding on. And by the beginning of the year, we're even introducing a 4th revenue stream. What are those? The first one is executive production, working for producing videos for our clients, some of which what I mentioned. And this is the biggest chunk in our pie. The second of which is actually YouTube, so YouTube advertising spend. So now actually YouTube introduced advertising in the region on our videos, and because we have millions of views on our videos, so we usually make good money out of that. And the third, which we're expanding on, is actually licensing our broadcasting rights of our content that goes on mainstream media. By the way, as we speak now, actually Al Jazeera is broadcasting our content on a daily basis. The 4th one we're introducing in the new year, we're introducing something called Qabila Academy, which basically is going to give access to all those talents out there that are contributing to our content. We'll make up about over 2,000 now active contributors in our content. The ones that actually want to embark on that career of media production, they're going to go through a whole series. We have partnerships with prominent filmmakers, script writers in the region, and they're going to be trained and taking classes with them to actually understand the science and the really professional actually part of whatever their talent is, either writing or filmmaking or anything. We're also, in the first quarter of 2013, we're going to move away from Facebook, and we're going to have our own platform, digital, as a destination on its own, with a lot more features, that one of which would actually allow the client to post sort of a request for proposal online and have people actually contribute their contributions or submit their contributions, and then people also, they can actually crowdsource feedback and have people say, okay, this idea can be better. So it even sort of adds or tops up, the relevance aspect of the content. So this is what we do. I don't know if the video played. Did it play in the background? Okay, so the video never played. I should have said actually to keep it playing, but basically this is nothing but a show reel that shows examples, some of samples of our productions. And yeah, so far we've produced over 85 branded productions, over 200 videos that went to clients in different clients, basically. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Perihan. First, let's start with Dr. Harris, and then.
You blew me away, really first rate. Talented, creative, you're on your way. How about money? You need any more money or not?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm looking if my pocket is full enough now.
So what's the next step as, beyond what you
So as I said, actually, now our biggest step, so we're already, we're okay when it comes to expanding our production lines and expanding the platform and all that. But we're also looking into expanding into different markets. I was recently actually in Nairobi. I was just talking to Dr. Asema about that. And I was in Nairobi and, representing part of a Demo Africa thing for African startups. And I was blown away by the opportunity that's out there in Africa because, again, it's another huge market for local content consumption. So what we decided actually is to look at Africa as the next go-to market to replicate that model. And what we're doing is that we're looking either for local partners because they're going to be the ones that give us access to local talents. And for that, we need investment to actually start operations, the pilot there, and expand it further. So yeah, we're looking for money.
Okay, thank you.
Let's talk.
Thank you. So let's, Dr. Osama, and then we'll start question.
Well, Perihan, you're the best company that I know of who's a startup in Egypt. It's, you are going to put Alexandria again on the map, and I appreciate it. If an advertiser were to ask you, how do you vet the content providers, and what is the profile today of the viewers and the average number of daily users, what would your answer be?
So the first part, how do we evaluate how do we source and how do we evaluate the content providers? So the process when, actually the submission of the idea is, we make sure that it's a concrete idea. So the application is not just, put in your, I think we should do a video about citizenship. No, it's never like that, or a video about physics. They actually have to submit a certain level of, concrete content. So either it can be, they submit a script or a creative treatment or anything. But then this goes through a process of evaluation. So we have an art direction and creative team that is the quality eye that evaluates it from a creative perspective. So evaluates the idea, the treatment, the writing of it, but also from a quality of art perspective. They evaluate this, and then the filtered ones are the ones that we can actually take to the client and tell them, okay, so this is what has been proposed there, and this is what you can work on. The second question, sorry. Okay, so in the beginning, actually, and I think that's one of the beauty of being online, because there's so much data out there that we can actually retrieve on our viewership. And in the beginning, we thought that we're there for the YouTube generation, the younger audience, and these are the people that we're going to be reaching, and we're happy with that because it's 50% of the population. But then we realized when we looked actually at our charts, we were surprised by the kind of content, by the kind of audience, the numbers, and even the geographic distribution there. So to give you, for instance, we discovered that Russia is our second largest outside of the Arab world in terms of viewership. And we're like, what? But yeah, so apparently, I think there is like a huge Arab community there. But we were also, we were dazzled by the age groups. So the demographics, definitely the younger, like the middle-aged, so anything between 15 to 35 is the highest. But then we have people 45 plus, and these are, given that these are the people that constitute the minority on YouTube, and they still make up a big chunk of our viewership, it means that outside on mainstream media, and that's why we actually wanted to explore mainstream media. That's why we approached other channels, because these are the people that are going to be watching us on Al Jazeera, on TV, on NBC, CBC, all of those channels. Another thing as well that we discovered is that there's a lot of initiatives and a lot of even grassroots movements and a lot of organizations that take our content, they ask us to download it offline, and they actually take it with them and broadcasted in offline medium. So very funny story actually to tell you. We were once meeting with like a little grassroots movement in Upper Egypt, and they told us that what they do in Egypt, their people are very, and that actually proves that they are entrepreneurial by nature. They do a very, very tricky thing actually to share satellite channels. So they have like what's equivalent here to the cable. We don't have that actually in Egypt, but they do that. So what they do is that you have like one mothership, a person who's sitting there and he has like one subscription to satellite channels, but then he actually sort of licenses that to a lot of people. And they have, in the demand channels, that's usually empty, like there is nothing on it. So what this guy did, he actually broadcasted our videos on those channels so that he can share it with a lot of people. So even the people were getting creative with sharing our content. So I would say that Qabila content is actually for anybody that wants to understand or learn about the kind of content that we're producing. And each kind of content is different. So it's everybody. It's media. It's entertainment. Everybody likes it. So
awesome. Thank you.
You can introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hi, this is Sudi. This may not be as relevant currently, but as you expand into various countries, especially when you have a group of people contributing, how do you determine the creative rights of the various contributors, and how do you keep track of that?
So IP is actually something that's extremely critical. It's a challenge for us as Qabila, as an organization, not just the contributors, because a lot of times, for those of you that know Al-Fara'in, Egyptians, they actually took our video, removed the credits part, and they just broadcasted it as a video on the channel. So we are under that kind of threat. But when it comes to the content contributors, so we always have agreements. We have actually a contract so far because it's still contained within the region. So we have contracts with them as if they're hired on that particular project. But with moving, it's something that we're looking at now. Actually, moving with the looking at the whole crowdsourcing aspect as a destination on its own or separate, we're looking into drafting what would be the user agreement or to actually guarantee that there is no threat. But all the time, regardless, all the time, people get paid for what they're doing and they get their names put on the production. And that's another actually huge temptation and incentive for the talents themselves, because when you find a fresh grad who believes is really, really talented but will never have access to one of those big tycoons in the industry, now he has the opportunity to have his name put on a production that's going to be broadcasted on Al Jazeera and seen by millions of people. This is something that, they would even do it for free, but we try to give them money. So.
Next question here.
Hi, my name is Adele, and I'm with YouNoodle, and I see a lot of different startup ideas, and I'm super impressed by this one. I think it's really amazing what you're doing. I think it's a cool business, and I also think it's really impactful.
It's fun,
so, bravo! I think it's awesome. My question to you is, first, sort of two questions. One is, what are some of the big challenges that you face locally? I imagine being a media company in places that are maybe slightly conscious about controlled messages might be interesting. So, commenting on that, but also, what are some of your goals while you're on this tour in the US? Like, how can this audience be helpful to you? What can we help you with?
Okay, so challenges and goals. I'll try not to ask you again for the second question. So the challenges, one of which is actually preserving our IPs. And another thing is actually, so as I said, we're looking at pushing licensing our productions for broadcasting. But we're very, as a team, we're very extremely experienced when it comes to production and the creative aspect of it. But this is an area where we need to develop a little bit of experience, especially because there's still, you're sitting on a negotiation table with people, big businesses, right? Like tycoons in that industry. So this is something that, with the pricing, and especially with the shifting in the industry as well, now a lot of those channels are actually introducing different payment methods, including revenue shares of the advertising. So it's just that area that it's a bit challenging for us in terms of competence, and that's why we're always looking to have people on our board or have mentors or consultants that can actually advise us on this aspect. so I guess the third challenge would possibly be actually having a lean process in terms of the evaluation of the content itself and the contributions. We're still developing on that. We actually moved it from being a whole month of evaluation to now less than 10 days of evaluation of content. But we want this to be even a shorter period of time, because with expansion, you expect even more thousands of contributions, and we want this to be like a 2-day process thing maximum, if not maybe in the future, a couple of hours. The second question, when it comes to what we're looking for, so in this tour, actually, I'm a big believer in people. Even if anybody asks for my business cards, you will see this on the back of it, that I'm looking everywhere to meet people that can that can add value to the business, but also the ones that I can contribute to as well, help in any way. So I'm essentially looking for people, for opportunities to meet people that have expertise in the media, can give us access to networks that can help us in reducing risk, expanding the business, access to market, whatever. But also we're looking for, obviously, investment, as I mentioned, and intelligence collection. So a huge value in this tour actually is that we're doing a lot of company visits, multi-million-dollar company visits, and sitting there with the CEO, asking them the direct questions that, it's an incredible opportunity, and I have to thank GIST and CRDF for it.
Hi. So looking at the different websites and news sites in Egypt, for instance, and you'll see that the quality of the content is subpar, and even some of the basics of journalism is not is not in use, is not employed. So now that I get the impression that you're on your way of success, and I wish you a ton more of that. Are there any projects that you do with the universities, like hands-on projects, so that the up-and-coming journalists and mass media employees, future mass media employees, would get a hands-on and really understand what it is to have relevant content?
Okay, so we don't particularly work directly with universities, but actually a very cool project that we just launched last week, actually while I was here. It's called Qabila Film Festival, and it's a competition, actually a global competition for young filmmakers that want to showcase their talent, and they get awards for it. We're promoting it through universities, so we're reaching out to each university in Egypt and also in the Arab world. Basically, the only condition for the competition is the video to be in Arabic or to be with subtitles. So we want it to be across the Arab region. But this is the first engagement that we have with universities directly. But I have to tell you that actually the biggest majority of our contributors are either fresh grads or still undergrad students in mass communication or film academy.
Okay, one more question here.
Alan Chang from Capricorn again. Have you talked to any media companies like Justin TV or Participant Media?
We've talked to, no, not globally. We haven't yet talked to anybody here, except the ones that we visited on this tour. We're now focusing, based on our statistics, actually local content consumption it's a bigger opportunity in non-English speaking countries, especially Arabic. Just to give you a small statistic, Arabic content on the web is estimated to be anything between 1% to 3%. Only 1% of that is visual content. So you can see, and then you see there's 400 million people in the Arab region. So Arabic content is a huge opportunity for us, but we're definitely going to be looking. It's one of actually the eye-opening experiences on this tour is that there is other rooms for collaboration in terms of sharing technologies and things like that. So this is something that I will definitely take back to the team and maybe consider. But so far, we're focused on even co-producing, collaborating with content creators in the region as opposed to here.
So Participant, by the way, is the company that made Inconvenient Truth, Kairana, Good Luck, Syriana, I guess recently The Help, and they're our sister company. To the extent if we can be helpful, I'd be glad to be of help.
Let's talk after this, I guess.
Great. Do we have more questions? Yes, no? Yeah. You can introduce yourself.
My name is Adnan Shanib. I'm with the Center for Medical Device Innovations. We are basically an incubator for healthcare technologies, mostly medical devices. And we've been very impressed with the ideas and the presentations today. And I have a question maybe to all of the entrepreneurs for potential investors from the US. We're obviously familiar with the terms of investments for a US-based company, but we have really no idea of what rights investors would have for companies that are based in, let's say, Egypt or Lebanon. How different these rights are, and how do you describe the similarities and the differences?
You have no rights. No, I'm just kidding. This is really a question beyond me. So I don't know if you guys if you've encountered this, but I think the market in the Middle East is still, at least in Egypt, maybe in the UAE is different when it comes to like venture capitalists and investments. It's a little bit mature, but in the rest of the Arab world, it's still young. We have very, very few VCs in Egypt, but now after the revolution, Egypt has been, on the radar of everybody. It's put on the map again, and we see a huge wave of investments coming into the market. I think policies are still not very strong when it comes to that, and maybe Dr. Osama actually would know more, but there isn't. I haven't really seen, like, to give you actually a perspective, in Egypt, there is no law that has anything to do with e-commerce, except for e-signature. So anything that's online business, there is no law. So we're still really not advanced when it comes to that part of business, but I think it's agreement thing. Maybe you would know.
Let me add a little bit to that. Actually, I happened to talk a little bit to a few investors outside, and it looks like you guys know better than I do that the term sheet is a very essential component for you to protect your rights. And in the term sheet, usually you can decide where the arbitrator could be and what law governs the term sheets. So in certain conditions, there could be mutual incorporation in two different countries, one of them being the foreign country or the US, for example, or where the arbitrator's laws you would be familiar with, or in other conditions you would follow where the arbitrator is going to be and protect your rights accordingly. So that's the scenario I experienced.
Thank you. So if we don't have any more questions, I would like to thank our wonderful entrepreneurs and our wonderful panelists for their great job, for a wonderful evening, to encourage you also to connect with TechWadi and with the GIST initiative on our Facebook community. On GIST, we have 70,000 members from all the countries that we are working with, entrepreneurs, mentors, investors. We will be having a reception tonight, and 10-15 minutes into the reception, we'll have two welcoming remarks from the CEO of CRDF Global, Kathy Campbell, as well as from Deputy Assistant Secretary Jonathan Margolis, representing the State Department. So again, thank you, everyone. We'd like to invite you for the reception, and later on we'll have two more speeches. Thank you.